back on another exciting episode of Starfleet So Hail, where we have a casual and informal conversation about Star Trek. Today we are talking about Star Trek Picard, Season 3, Episode 9, the penultimate episode of the season, of the series, Star Trek Picard, called Vox. And I'm so excited. Look at this panel. Look at all these folks ready to talk about Star Trek Picard and talk about if we liked it or not. And so welcome back, Kevin, Stan, Jesse. Welcome back, Robbie. Welcome back from a long time ago, Robbie. It's nice to have you in the stream again. And I know you have fans out in our audience who are probably excited to see you too. We have who's that guy? Oh yeah, Toddy. That's right. Whatever. No, I'm just
panel
kidding.
outnumbers the chat.
The panel for now, it outnumbers the chat for now, but everyone's gonna retweet and tell people we're on.
Everyone hit the like button. We're only at 6 likes. It's ridiculous. What?
Wow. We have Trev back. We have Ken. We have Braxton, and we have Michelle. So welcome back, guys. Thank you for coming in.
Hey, Starfleet So Hail. Sorry, dude. Hey, Robbie.
Okay.
It's good to see you, dude.
Well, here we
It's
are.
good to see. I'll answer for Robbie. It's good to see you too, Braxton.
Oh, did you?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I didn't catch that. It's nice to see you, Braxton.
Robbie's already being assimilated.
Yeah, it's like assimilation sickness. Just
Yeah.
How does it feel to be assimilated, Robbie? Is it nice?
It's not pleasant.
why would you
I
assume it's
figured
nice?
that's true. I don't know.
Oh my God.
The Borg Queen talked it up last season. The Confederation Borg Queen. She was
That
like,
was a
"I
different
pumped you full
Federation.
of
That was a different
drugs
Borg
and-
thing. That was a different. Those were the
I'm not
hippie
sure.
Borg.
I'm not sure she's a reliable narrator when it comes to what it feels like to be assimilated.
True.
Excellent. And look at our lovely chat. We do have a lot of people in the chat. Thank you for joining us, guys. We look forward to hearing your thoughts, and we'll try to get to as many of them as we can. So yeah, let's get started. I'll give the episode summary. I'm going to give the episode summary, and everyone can feel free to help me out with it or join in, or and by the way, this is a episode summary that Stan helped to write. He sent it and I assimilated it. Haha. so here goes. This is not a chat GPT summary.
Thank you, Stan, for abbreviating these summaries.
Yes.
You're
Thank you, Stan.
a
That is
master.
a
Thank you so
bold
much.
assumption. I did my best.
Oh cool, look, the sub commander is here. Hello. And he's decloaked to be in our chat. Very nice. And Miss Powell family and Joel. All right, here we go. Toddy's gonna hate this from the start because I never do my summaries the order of the show, but here we go.
Once
Jean-Luc
upon a
Picard.
time.
Jean-Luc Picard, Beverly Crusher, William Riker, Deanna Troi, Worf, Data, and Geordi LaForge. These are our heroes. These are the people that we're all here to kind of see because we're like haven't seen them together in like 15 years almost, and boy, are they back together. It was glorious to see them. I'm very emotional, so I'm not sure I'll be able to maintain myself throughout this episode, but I will just say that this season has felt like a real gift to me. This episode 9 and 10 are being kind of touted as a movie, and it totally feels that way. It had that. It gave me that rush of that feeling. By the way, does anyone in the panel or in the audience have tickets for the IMAX? Because I'm so envious of you if you do. No one got them. Oh man, that sucks. I know there were troubles. But yeah. Anyways, so upon retaking the ship, Jack finds solace in a much-needed therapy session, and I love this, Stan, with Auntie Deanna, because that's who she is. Behind the mysterious red door, the Borg has concocted a new yet familiar secret weapon, Jack himself. Deanna hurriedly heads to sickbay, where she informs the unassuming parents of her obligation to contact Starfleet Protective Services. I kept that's not me, but I loved it. Jean-Luc, however, takes it upon himself to deliver the news, believing the responsibility is his. Jack's reaction to the news is far from calm. as he succumbs to an emotional outburst that in turn validates the older generation's concerns. Demonstrating his resourcefulness, Jack steals a shuttle using a technique he acquired from his father and taunts his parents as they watch him warp into the unknown from the observation lounge, because there's no trackers on shuttles. No, he would have turned it off. Following an emotionally charged interaction between Data and Picard, the crew is summoned. Oh, sorry. It was not between Data and Picard. It was between Picard, Deanna, and Picard and Beverly. The crew is summoned to sickbay for an important meeting. The Borg, it seems, have altered Picard's DNA when they assimilated him all those years ago, and that altered DNA is now, which was being used to make Locutus a sort of receiver of information about the Borg, has now been flipped in Jack and is being used by the changelings and our big bad of the season, the Borg Queen, to assimilate everyone without their knowledge. And it's freaking brilliant, because you get in a transporter, you're now assimilated. You're just waiting for this signal to wake you up. Anyhow, as a result, Jack has become a unique transmitter. But how are the random officers picking up on his signals? That mystery will be addressed later, as there is more excitement to come. The scene shifts to Frontier Day, where we see the Enterprise F gloriously emerge from space dock, and she does look pretty cool. Commanded by Admiral Shelby, who gives this like awesome speech about the history of the Federation and like introduces this new technology that's meant to unify and what's the word I'm looking for? I wrote it down and I lost my place on the page. Synchronize the fleet. And to which Picard and Riker are kind of like shaking their head. They're like, this is very obviously Borg technology. How could you not know? Yes, Jay, Fleet Admiral Shelby. So they do this demonstration, they line up the fleet, but then Jack, who finally meets up with the Borg Queen, starts to have his little moment of like resistance, if you will. And unfortunately, as we all have learned, resistance is in fact futile. So he gets assimilated and is now used to his abilities are now used and enhanced, and a signal goes out to the fleet, and lo and behold, the members of the crew who were affected by this genetic alteration start to transform into the Borg, and they all happen to be the younger generation, like you, Robbie. So don't kill us. And so you're only affected by it until your frontal lobe apparently develops, which, depending on the species, could be at different times, but more or less when you're out of adolescence and into adulthood. So this happens. The fleet's taken over. Picard, Shaw, Seven, and anyone else who's not assimilated are frantically trying to get off the ship. They head down to the maintenance area and to steal a shuttlecraft. And then sadly, we lose Captain Shaw, who I was just starting to really like and appreciate, and was hoping for him to, kind of have a redemption, if you will, because he was not the nicest guy to Seven, and had some opinions and thoughts that maybe could use some revising. Anyways, Shaw is presumed dead. Seven stays behind. His last words are to actually call her by her name and give her command of the Titan, which is already taken over by the Borg. Rafi stays behind also, by the way, which is pretty awesome, because she's not going to let Seven, just like kind of face the Borg alone. She goes into so anyways, the crew escape on the shuttle. They bought him enough time. They get to the Fleet Museum, and that's where we get the reveal of the Enterprise D that Geordi's been working on for a number of years, restoring it to its glory. And boy, does it look glorious. They get on the bridge, those beautiful lights turn on, and they have all these like fun little sequences and a nice little nod to carpets. And then Jean-Luc and crew are going to head back to, I guess, face off the fleet with the Enterprise D. What's going to happen next week? We're all dying to find out. But before we speculate too much about it, let's talk about this week. So there, That was my summary with Stan's help. Thank you, Stan. It was short, right? 10 minutes. That's not so bad.
Excellent
So,
as always.
Braxton, start us off. What'd you think of this episode?
Oh wow, this episode got my day off to a good start. You know, I watch in the morning before I go to work. You know, so I just finished the episode at 7:30 when I need to leave for work, and I had a smile on my face for like the last 10 minutes. So I like burst out of the door, like rushing. I was hoping that nobody was outside because then they'd like see this huge smile on my face and be like, "Oh, dude, but why's that dude smile like first thing in the morning?" But it was because Picard made me feel so good. Like I loved the look of the Enterprise D. Like I felt like I had never seen it look so crisp before today. Um, I love the lighting of the bridge. Like I was like, oh, you know, like they need to keep that. You know, that looks great. Um, but yeah, I thought this was a solid episode. Like I was really bothered by 7 of 9 calling Data a robot. I feel like we have been experiencing like someone like you know, calling her something that like she doesn't like who's like she's been dealing with like someone not acknowledging like what she is or like what she's trying to be, you know? And I feel like, you know, for someone who's experiencing that to, you know, call Data a robot like isn't the right thing. Like, you know, I thought that was really pretty shitty. But this episode made me feel
that's definitely Shaw rubbing off on
really
7.
good. I'm really glad that you know, we found out what was up with Jack in the first 5 minutes. At least they gave that to us and didn't drag it out any longer. And I like Borg stories. Solid episode.
Right on. That Borg queen. She's back. She's gonna kick down the door. Michelle, share your thoughts, please.
Well, I mean, there's so much nostalgia here. So there's thoughts that I have that I'll probably save for Crusher Convo. I mean, I have rewatched this episode multiple times. I was able to rewatch it multiple times today. So I will just say I appreciated the TNG crew being together. There was a lot of that last scene of them kind of getting off on the Enterprise D and, you know, Picard giving orders. Like it felt very TNG to me. It was a really nice moment. And they spent a ton of money on the Enterprise D. Like just, it looked gorgeous. And on like the recreation of the bridge. That was amazing. The plot, it felt kind of predictable to me. We've a lot of us have been saying Borg for a while. So I was hoping for something a little more with the twist. I really appreciate Ed Speleers this season. He is killing it, knocking it out of the park. The Picard and Beverly of it all, I'm gonna have to wait till next week because yeah, there really wasn't, you know, not too much to write home about here in terms of they seem very again, I tweeted about it, like together but not, like working together trying to save their son but like not on the same page emotionally at all, unable to be there for each other like they were on TNG. I did catch the Pulaski shout out with the ship. So somebody was saying in the chat, Pulaski was right about the transporters, and somebody said Bones too. Yes, I immediately thought of Bones with this whole transporter thing. That was interesting. I kind of thought it was a good plot twist with the DNA. I don't know if this means they can't use transporters anymore in Star Trek. That's not going to be good. I'm
sure like with all transporter centric things, they'll figure out how to reverse it, put everyone through the transporter and get that DNA out of them. I'm just guessing. I don't know.
Yeah, I hope so. They're just going to remove that rogue DNA from Picard's. Anyway, ick. But I did enjoy Beverly because she did tech the tech very nicely, as she always does. She figured things out. It was the Nerd Squad, right? I think Jesse tweeted this out. Nerd Squad working together, Data, Geordi, and Beverly. And I love how Beverly put her hands on Geordi's shoulder as Data stopped him from going to try to save his daughters. Like, that was a good emotional moment that we needed with Geordi because we know how important his family is to him. But Data grounding him and Beverly kind of also doing the same thing. I like those emotional character beat moments. Like I dig the ships, I get it, but like for me it's the relationships. So I'm hoping it's not too much pew 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 in the next one and we do get to see some resolution. I am worried for Jack, but I don't know. And then Shaw, I mean, I thought he had a fitting end, I guess.
I don't believe it's the end, by the way. I'm just saying it right now. I don't
No
think
one
he's
dies
dead.
in Star Trek, right?
No one dies in Star
No one-
Trek.
no one dies. But it was that moment in the maintenance area that was epic with all of them together in one place. I wish we had more of that, but obviously time and money and blah blah blah. But I really enjoyed like all the actors being there, the firing scenes, the humor. I was really identified with Data this episode in that scene with Geordi, where Geordi's like, "Can we be a little bit more positive?" And he's like, "I hope we die quickly." Like, yeah, I feel like Jesse is Geordi and I'm new Data for this episode. So Crusher Convo, stay tuned for Crusher Convo, where you may see a bit of that.
That's
dynamic.
how you should totally pitch it that way.
You're Jay
that's
Jordan.
I'm Jade. We're all gonna die. We're all gonna die. At least I'm not the Radish King. But I did have, again, pacing with this show has been an issue for me. I feel like we wasted some time early on, and now we're ramping up, and there's no time for a lot of the emotional resolution that I feel I'm gonna need. And I appreciate what they're doing. I appreciate the Shelby thing. I was like, oh, we're gonna hate on Shelby. Okay, was she a changeling? I saw in the chat, was she a changeling? Was she not? I don't know. But
I don't think
feel
they would have shot her if she were a changeling, but maybe, I don't know, maybe the plan
I feel
of
like
the
maybe
Borg
they're
Queen
turning
was
on the changelings. They're just like
on the
no.
changelings as well.
Yeah, and I
they're
like that it was
whatever,
like the age cutoff. Like Beverly figured out the age cutoff. So I'm gonna basically blah the whole plot if I keep going. So overall,
fine.
yeah, it was a good episode of Star Trek. But for me, I'm still not seeing some of the things that I'm hoping for. So we'll see what episode 10 brings.
Excellent. Ken?
So I thought that this was a very interesting episode in that it was the action adventure story that everybody was looking for, but I also think that it continues to give short shrift to a lot of the character development in favor of the action adventure stuff. There are very powerful character beats. The scene that Michelle was talking about with Data saying to Geordi, "No, don't get your daughters," and Beverly, comforting him. Beverly continuing to be the science queen of all this and helping figure all of this out. Very, very good Beverly stuff. I was a bit taken aback by Picard deferring to being, Starfleet says I have to betray my son and I have to focus on Starfleet, so I'm not going to worry so much about my son thing. And I think that's, a little bit challenging. I love, though, that Picard finally emoted more so than he has done perhaps since Family, when he said, "They made me almost kill everybody that I love." That strong emotional scene, I thought that was very well done. And, it was like 30 years in the waiting for him to say it, 35 years in the waiting for him to say it. The surprises, I thought it was great to see Shaw. I almost heard and wanted to have a Riker sort of Khan moment where, where Khan went, "Admiral Kirk." I almost wanted Riker to say, "Admiral, Shelby, Admiral Shelby." But he got his digs in anyway to her. Overall, again, I think it was a good episode. A lot of people are super nostalgic about the Enterprise D, of course. I'm a TOS guy, big surprise. And so I was thinking that the scene a few episodes back where they were on the bridge of the Titan with Seven and Jack looking over the old ships, the Defiant and then the Enterprise and the Voyager. I could watch that scene 1,000 times. This scene with the return of the Enterprise D was kind of cool. Geordi had to do a lot of work on that saucer section because that saucer section was not in good shape. I knew something was going to be resurrected from Viridian 3, and it was the Enterprise D and not James T. Kirk. But yeah, overall, I thought it was a very good episode. But again, I think the pacing was a little off. I was sorry to see Shaw go, although, you had to get it to the point where the Enterprise D crew was all that was on the Enterprise D. I am excited to see Seven and Rafi reunited to see where they go. I thought the Jack story was really interesting, but I think it's leading up to a bit of a repeat of what Janeway did at the end of Star Trek Voyager, where Janeway turned the tables on the Borg Queen. So I'm a little bit concerned that they're sort of replaying that moment, and we'll see that next week. Also, we know next week.
I have to catch up on Voyager before next week because I don't
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. So
Well,
now
there you
I'll
go.
think
Gotta
Jack
watch.
first.
Yep. And they've got a situation now where they have 90, 75 minutes left of time. So the issue is going to be they're going to probably end up resolving this relatively quickly, and then spending a lot of next week doing a Lord of the Rings 10 different finales thing. The 10 different endings of the Return of the King.
I'm 100% okay.
I love Lord of the Rings. I'm so glad that this is your prediction. I really hope that that's true, Ken. Thank you.
I really hope that too. Yeah. Like it's all resolved in 10 minutes, and then I would love the hero victory.
Lots of big hero moments, 10 different endings like Return of the King had. But anyway, that's my quick take. There it is.
You reminded me of the first time I watched Return of the King with my father, and he actually said, "Oh man, I thought this ended like an hour ago."
Yep.
I was like, "Yeah, don't you love it?" He's like, "No."
I loved every minute of it, including the extended edition with my father. We would watch that. It was amazing. We deserve that for next gen. Come on, let's do it. Hopefully.
I think my father would be more accepting of the next gen doing it. It's true.
I mean, like the Enterprise D is going to show up. I mean, the Enterprise D is a great ship, but how are they going to go up against that entire fleet? I'm sorry.
I know how.
It's like it reminds me of the Doomsday Machine when Spock says, "We're one ship. Our engines are strained. Our shields are useless. We've got to get back and warn."
It's going to be the disaster kids. You all know it. All the disaster kids are coming back. Come on.
We'll talk about it more when we talk about the Enterprise D. But my prediction is when Troy, the thing that I know it's not related, but when Troy says to Jack, like every symbol has a meaning, the Enterprise D is a symbol. It is a symbol, and it has meaning, and it's gonna strike something in the hearts of all the freaking Borg when they see that ship. And they'll see that the Federation will persevere as long as there's like 7 people willing to go crazy nuts and steal a ship from the museum. There's hope. Trev, you go next.
Overall, very, 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 very positive. The nostalgia for me is not even close to being a negative thing. We've got 700 plus hours of Star Trek out there. That 10 of them have been fan service is totally fine for me. I've been a fan for 40 years. I don't mind being having all the cool things thrown at me in one season of one series. It's fine. The Borg well is one that for me gets replenished periodically. Sometimes it starts to run dry, and sometimes the stories get a little meh, and then it fills back up a little bit and the stories get good again. I feel like this is, even though this was predictable, I feel like the story is unfolding in a way that I don't mind. I don't mind that the Borg are the big bad. Because like I said, I feel like the well has filled back up a little bit in terms of what they're giving us. And Alice Krieg, like even if all we ever get is her voice, I'm fine with it. Because I would listen to her read the phone book. I had a couple of nitpicks too. The 7 joke one-liner about the robot did just sort of throw me. Like it wasn't even that the joke landed poorly. It was just like, huh? Like why? Like why did she say that? It just didn't feel like the character. So it just kind of went thud. Which for an episode that went by really, really fast for me because I was so enthralled. That kind of shook me out of it really, really fast. But for the most part, like incredibly positive stuff. The Jack thing, I actually think them trying to use this sort of weird biotech thing is going to ultimately be the undoing. I think Jack's going to be the secret to their win. So I don't think the Enterprise D needs to go up against the fleet. I think Jack's going to go up against the fleet. And also have a feeling that maybe we lose the Enterprise D again. I certainly don't know that. I haven't seen anything. I don't know anything, but it just kind of feels like they're going to give it to us and then blow it up, or make it a distraction or do something crazy. I loved seeing Shelby. I saw Jill in the chat mention, she's like, "Is anyone else a fan of Shelby?" I was a fan of Shelby from day one. I was kind of sad to see, like, I was happy to see her back, and then, like, as soon as that phaser got pulled on her, I was like, "Oh man, like, we're bringing back another cool TNG person and just killing them." But at the same time, it is kind of interesting that character die at the hands of a Borg plot. It's kind of a fun little twist. But yeah, now I'm rambling. Overall positive, some nitpicks here and there. The last, that last 10 minutes of the Enterprise D was everything for me. Yeah, we'll pick it apart later. Oh, and I was kind of happy with Shaw's passing, not because I wanted the character to die, but because I struggle with any character in Trek that displays such rampant bigotry. So for a resolution for him passing and then his last words being sort of an attempt at some kind of reconciliation worked for me, just because I'm like, where do we go from here? So he, died. His last words were a little bit of a salvation for the character, and now we don't have to worry about it anymore. So for me, it worked.
Thanks for your thoughts. Toddy.
I enjoyed the episode. I have to admit that, and this is not just this episode, but I mean, for a few episodes now, I feel like the plot or any semblance of story is really just an excuse to get these people back together. I say that and it sounds dreadful, but I really have no problem with that. I'm quite happy just accepting a very bare bones or borderline ridiculous plot. Like, if I were to read this to you, you would think I'm citing a Lower Decks episode. How kind of stupid it is. But it's fine for me. It works because it brings everyone back, and I'm happy. I am a little frustrated that Seven and Rafi didn't get enough respect to be put on that bridge with the TNG crew. I understand. I know it's to get TNG on the Enterprise D, but I still think Rafi and Seven have deserved their spot. To just be lying, like sitting there with like dead Shaw. Okay. But other than that, like, no, it was a fun episode. It is the kind of like action adventure with like the one-liners. Some of them land for some people, some of them don't. But it's kind of like, it really is the formula for like a Star Trek film. And I think it works because the characters are so good. They have so much heart and so much depth, and the performances just carry them so well. So it's all working for me on that level. And like visually, I think that everything is very interesting. The music carries so many scenes. It's absolutely wonderful. Yeah, so overall, I think positive vibes. Plot wise, and I think, yeah, maybe they could do a little more with a few characters. Like, it's a shame. So this is weird, but I almost felt like it was too late to do what they did at the end of this episode. I was like, oh no, you've done this beautiful thing. You've got all of these fantastic characters. They're all together now. They all have their chance to like have their each individual moments. They can all like do their, they can tech the tech, like you said, Michelle. They can, they can all do their things, but like, there's only one episode left. You just set this up at like episode 3 or 4 so that we could have really appreciated that. But that is a nitpick, and we'll see what they do. Maybe they'll deliver like this fantastic film for episode 10. But yeah, overall, positive thoughts.
Nice. Kevin.
I hate to be the downer again for the second week in a row. It didn't.
Bring us down.
Reasons why. I was telling Starfleet Boy earlier today that I didn't want to be the negative guy, but I have to be honest. So I think what Toddy had said just now about this has been around 9-ish hours where plot just doesn't seem to matter. I described a friend earlier today. This could have been a really good photo series, like Vogue. Like, we are seeing our characters that we miss from 30 years ago when we were children being placed together, and we don't care about how they became placed together. In a sense, liking in spite of the plot, not because of the plot. And they had 10 hours to give something amazing in a world, like I said last week, of premium television that has been doing a lot of really tight, solid 10 hours storytelling. And we start off with, yet again, where are the women? What does this show do with women? So this week it was Let's Shoot Shelby. We have Rafi and Seven were broken up, and at the beginning we thought that wasn't real, but it turns out it was real, and we don't know why, and it didn't serve any purpose whatsoever. We have the redemption of Shaw, kind of, in a way that we all saw coming. Even earlier in this episode, he calls her Hanson, and Betty has also the Catholic schoolboy thing, the deathbed confessional, where just before he's about to die, he does the thing that we expect in this universe to have been doing the entire time. A thing he refused to do when asked and refused to do when demanded. But he's a hero because he's a guy, and guys going wrong, that's what we like. It just feels like a whole lot of fan service, and I hate to use that term, but it's playing on this nostalgia of the plot. Why did Jack go to the Borg? Why was the fleet assembled? Like, they had that fleet formation thing. We know why fleet formation needs to have perspective. Did anyone clarify what the benefit of fleet formation was supposed to be in the show? We know that Shaw picked. Oh wait, we don't know that. The show never told us that. Those of us that were on Twitter and follow the showrunner found out, but the show has not given that redemptive part of the character. And not to drone on and on, because let other people have time, but a series of things like that that really has the show breaking my heart.
It's a bummer to hear that the show's breaking your heart. It's a bummer to hear that the show's breaking your heart. We'll talk about some of those things, I'm sure, throughout the discussion. But hey, you know what? As I told you offline, like, you know, it would be. I like hearing when folks don't like something that I love, because, you know, sometimes when you love something, you're like blindly in love with it, and so it's good to hear like another perspective that just kind of shakes up your world. So yeah, like maybe, you know, because you can all guess what I'm going to rate this episode. So maybe, Kevin, you're like my yang to the yang, whatever. You would create balance together. So thanks for coming on here and expressing your thoughts. And I would welcome anyone to share their thoughts, negatively or positively, but respectfully. And you seem to be a very respectful person, so thank you. Stan, you're up.
Thank you. Thanks.
Well, I loved this episode, and here's why Kevin's wrong. No.
Thank you for saying what a host cannot say. No, I'm just kidding.
No. Well, it's interesting because I did genuinely love this episode, but I agree with a lot of the, like, quote negative, quote positive feedback that a lot of folks have been sharing. I really enjoyed this episode. I think there was a lot of there were a lot of moments that I thought they wanted to hit differently than they did for me. For example, last week I talked about the pacing of the previous two episodes. If the cold open from today was on last week, I would have been much more jazzed about coming into this episode. I thought it was a little weird to push it off, but it was what I expected. I did not. some things being predictable is not necessarily bad to me. I think in the streaming universe, we're used to having this massive reveal, but having things that are predictable doesn't bother me, particularly when it's earned. I think others have touched on this. The Borg well can seem like it's dry, but to me also it was sort of refilled today because there were new aspects to the Borg that we were seeing while still connected to the next generation. I thought we had some beautiful character moments. One not touched on yet was Data trying to be comforting with Admiral Picard. When he put his hand on Jean-Luc's shoulder, I started to tear up. I thought that was a really lovely moment. I loved the scenes with Beverly and Picard. There should have been many more minutes in each of those interactions. I would have loved some more dialogue between the two of them, but I loved finally hearing from Jean-Luc some acknowledgement of what a good mother she has been, even though obviously he still probably doesn't agree with the decision to not tell him until this crisis. So I thought we got a little bit of that. I would have loved more, but like others have said, the pacing is interesting. We're in episode 9 now, and we just don't have enough time for those things to happen. And then there were a couple of other moments that I wanted to touch on. I liked Shaw's his hero's journey ending. It was interesting to me that he ended up getting taken out in probably like the least dramatic. Like he has been injured so many times this season, and this one was like the quickest, easiest one, which like subverting my expectations. It wasn't like he went out there and had to do hand-to-hand combat for 3 minutes and then at the last second got stabbed or anything like that. It was very, very sudden. So I thought it was earned. A lot of these moments felt earned, even though I find some of them frustrating. The complete dropping of the changelings I thought was odd. I should have started my comments by saying, when I can binge this after next week, my thoughts may change. But like having the changelings completely dropped from the storyline this episode, like I did not get the sense that Vadic and her bunch were the only changelings. In fact, I know that they weren't because we saw some on other ships. So like, where are they? I would have loved to have seen the Borg turning on them in today's episode, because clearly that happened, right? Like there's no chance that the Alliance is still intact. And so I thought that was a missed opportunity. And the last thing I'll say is I may be one of this may be an unpopular opinion, but I have no sympathy for Jack. His choices in this episode I found very frustrating. And I thought, like, I get it. Like you do an emotional thing, or you do a stupid thing for an emotional reason. Like it's a writing technique that works really well. It kind of felt a little out of nowhere because we've seen him passionate, but we haven't seen him crazy angry. We haven't seen him be completely irrational. And so I can see him having this big emotional reaction to finding out that there's something up with him because of the Borg and it's out of your control. I would certainly have a reaction. But instead of this angry, prototypical white man, I'm gonna go show the Borg Queen what's up with my 135-year-old phaser, like say being terrified and choosing to give himself up, like taking a completely different tact, like the angry, I'm just going to go badass my way out of this, fell completely flat for me. And one episode left. I don't know if they're going to be able to redeem Jack for me. And if he is the, like, it just so turns out that Jack is the one who can resist the Borg when we've seen so many other people not able to. Like, I hope that there's got to be an intervention with Jean-Luc or Beverly, something, because if it's just him, it's going to be super frustrating. Because like the golden child, like I will again just note the lack of complaints from people who would see the exact same thing happening in a Discovery or a Prodigy or even a Strange New Worlds. But like this white man doing it, having it happen with him, it's like radio silence. And so it's frustrating but not surprising. And so I hope with one episode left they can redeem him a little bit, because I found him very frustrating in this episode. And I have started ranting beyond what I thought I would do, so I will stop there. Sorry.
Wesley will return and give him a headbutt.
Beverly's other
Wesley will save
special
us from
son, but
Jack
apparently
Skywalker.
nothing is from Beverly. Everything is from the two guys that she was with. Anyway.
Stan,
Men only inherit greatness from their male parents.
Ooh. Well, Jean-Luc says
that's how
that
this century works.
I hope not. We'll see. I'm with you,
Jean-Luc
Stan.
says differently in the episode. He gives credit to the good stuff being from Beverly.
This is true.
Before we continue, there's a couple folks I did send invitations to. It looks like you guys might be trying to hop on. It's a max of 10. I just found this out, so you can only have 10 people. We can't have 100. What do you mean? Sorry. So you can only have 10. So now we know there's
12 would work better.
Yeah, I know.
Okay,
visually,
whatever.
like we could have.
Get on it,
Or we
get
could
on it,
have.
StreamYard. What are you
I
doing?
don't know. Yeah, StreamYards. Jesse, thank you, and Robbie, thank you for waiting so patiently. You guys are up. So Jesse first.
Okay, I want to just tell Stan that he's not alone about the Jack part. It was very out of character, in my opinion. It was very rushed. I was talking about this last week. I don't like rushed. Just for him to be like, oh, I'm part Borg, I'm pissed off. And then he just took off. And so I felt how he treated Picard is like, whatever. But how he treated Beverly, I was mad. I thought that was very, very wrong for him to put her through that. So don't say that you were alone, because you're not. But overall, I did enjoy this episode. Much better than last week. I enjoyed pretty much all of it, except for those little nitpicks, right? Of course, the last, 10, 15 minutes with the whole Enterprise D and things like that. Absolutely loved it. Heard Majel's voice. I was giddy like nobody's business hearing her as the computer. I thought the contrast, though, when they're turning on the lights and, the bridge is so bright and it just shows what it was like back in the 24th century, or when they were on the D versus how they are now, because their uniforms are dark. And so it just showed the different contrasts about how much has changed over the last 25 years, 30 years, whatever, when the D crashed. So I liked that little part. But, for instance, I want to answer Miss Pell's family's question. She says, does Jesse think that Shaw died like Quint from Jaws? Yes and no. I mean, they did have the exact same thing. Quint hated sharks because of what he went through. That's why he hunted them. He ended up getting killed by one. But he didn't die a death that was ultimately going to save Brody or Hooper. In this sense, Shaw being the lucky number 10, and he never knew why, this was his moment of why. He redeemed himself in a way of because he went and turned and said, Picard, go, I'll cover you. And that's when he got shot. So there's one Borg that he saved. And then he had his moment of passing on the comm to Seven and calling her that. So that's a little different in my opinion, but I wanted to answer that question real fast. But yeah, I think all the Beverly stuff, I think, is clues. So for Picard to be saying how the best of Jack is because of her, the reason why she raised him is a testament to how he was able to resist. I think that's going to be the reason why he's going to be able to stop the Borg Queen, is because he's in that moment because of Picard, but the only reason that's going to save him is because of Beverly. One of our listeners last week had kind of put it really well. She had said the difference between Picard and Jack is that Picard did not have a mother to grow up and be able to resist any of this, but Jack did have a mother who wholeheartedly did everything for him. And even that memory in the beginning was super important, because he was smiling. He's like, I loved this place. My mother took me here. She loved this song. These are the
Crimson Arboretum. I love
that. And I thought it was beautiful. I would love to go there. So those things were, I think, clues that that's what's going to happen. I think Picard and Beverly are going to be on the cube. And that's how it's going to stop it, because the Queen is acting like now she's his mother. And Beverly's not going to have that at all. kind of wish we had more Raffi. 7 was just kind of there. Like there was just, I don't know, it was just kind of weird. And then there's the one Safi moment, like, I'm not leaving you. And I'm like, but now I guess Raffi's her number 1 because now she's in control of the Titans. So I guess we'll see that next week. But yeah, I mean, overall, it was a lot better than last week. I really enjoyed it. You know, little nitpicks here and there, but nothing too crazy. Did love Geordi and Data. Loved him comforting Picard. Loved how he stopped, Geordi. And then of course Beverly being there, the nerd squad. So, and of course she signs the science again, as always. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
Excellent. Robbie.
I feel like the 2 most unrealistic aspects of this episode are Beverly becoming like an exposition device. And, like she basically became the hand of a writer in explaining the Borg. And I felt like that happened pretty quickly without a logical kind of narrative. But the episode had to kind of move along. And also I feel like it's a bit unrealistic that Picard's, touching the Enterprise D when his son is, like all of their family are in danger. And they're just like, oh, look at the Enterprise D, it's so beautiful. But obviously we had to have these moments. I've loved that this season has been so bold to have the changelings as the TNG kind of threat, and because it feels different, like the Borg are a bit predictable. I feel like the Borg are less intimate because the Borg have never had like one kind of defining presence. The Borg were scariest when Picard was a Borg because we know him, or we had that connection with Hugh. But because we're not really seeing the Borg as one kind of voice, it feels less threatening to me. I suppose now that Jack's assimilated, maybe it'll be more personal, but I feel like Vadik was more entertaining as a character, and I feel like I was primed for the villains to be the changelings, or it to be linked to the female changeling from DS9. But I feel like the way it was executed with the Borg is it's done really well. It's just not what I was hoping for. But yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. I loved that we got to see the old crew together again. This whole season has been about family, so it makes sense to have the younger generation now be the villains, and our older generation have to, I suppose, work out how to communicate back with them and maybe kind of bring them back to their normal selves. I'm predicting that Sydney is going to have to, I don't know, kiss Jack to get him back to normal or something like that. But yeah, I'm very excited. I hope that there's kind of a theme of communication and trying to get through that kind of continues the character themes, and it isn't as one note as just, a Borg threat that they have to take down with phasers or, something like that. I feel like it would have been nice to have Shaw on the Enterprise, to have him kind of recognize that, okay, now Picard has his command after he's, commandeered.
One of the most mysterious characters in Mandalorian series.
No, it's okay.
It's the Borg.
Star Wars is trying to take over this show here, so Hale, you gotta check your communication systems.
What's going on? God damn it.
Crossing the streams.
Carry on, Robbie.
I feel like it would have been really nice to have Shaw on the Enterprise D bridge, just to have him. It was nice to see him, say 7 of 9 finally, but to have him on the Enterprise D, maybe just like in the back corner near the turbo lift, and maybe have like a moment of recognition that, wow, these people are really a family, and I've been horrible to them this whole season. It could have been nice. I'm not sure how I feel about Picard and Co just leaving Seven and Raffi on the Titan with the Borg. But I suppose that's how they're going to balance the next episode, with Seven and Raffi working together and then cutting to the Enterprise crew.
Shaw would have been blinded by the lights on the bridge. He's not used to the brightness.
I do feel like Raffi could have given cover and they could have dragged Shaw into the shuttle to safety, but I do agree that now that I've heard you guys talk about it, that maybe there's a reason why they're still on the Titan, which is because Shaw's not dead and they're going to retake the Titan. It's going to be glorious. A lot of ships are going to retake their ships.
If Shaw
and
died, it would have been vaporized like everyone else on this show.
That's like not necessarily. Maybe he has more death scenes to give. Go ahead, Kevin.
We already done 3, but that would be horrible for them to give 7 of 9 command and then just take it away again.
Shaw's a changeling.
I think
that's what they're going to show.
No.
Here's hoping. But
so we
I
talked.
think that this telegraphs where it's going, so we know that it's going to be 7 and her former girlfriend taking over Titan somehow, and then the rest on the D. Like there aren't any surprises in this show. You think it's going to happen? That's the thing that's going to happen.
I want to point out the Powell family's comment about if Beverly fights the Borg Queen, then it's like one of the Litverse novels. And
Yeah.
I just did a podcast with Peter Trek 1 about this, about the Coda novels, and I would love to see that on screen. Although I know that it's called Star Trek Picard, it would be super awesome to see Beverly Crusher and the Borg Queen facing off, and I really hope we get it.
If the spin-off is with Crusher, they used to call it Star Trek Crushing It.
Crushing it.
Crushing it. Just crushing it. That's it.
That's her in
Just crushing it.
Whenever she's like, set a course for Deep Space Nine. Warp 7.
Crushing it.
Crush it.
Crush it.
Yes.
Is there an
How much you want to bet that Jack Crusher changes his name to Jack Picard at the end of this series?
Oh
though?
my
No, he's not.
Because
gonna
that's
do that.
my
No, he
that
changes
is
it to,
my
he changes
worst.
it to
He's
Jacques.
not gonna-
Jacques Picard.
Jacques.
Jacques Picard.
No, I think Michelle's right.
I'm
do
not
not.
a fan of it. I'm not a fan of the Beverly Crusher erasure that involves.
I don't
hey,
see him
But unless he
changing
it's not
hyphens
even her
it,
maiden
but
name,
They're not
so
going to
it's
do
Howard.
that. Why would he
And-
change his name? He's been
I
Jack
could-
Crusher for.
I could see
Or
him.
Stays like
Picard.
Wesley.
I could see him saying, "I'm also a Picard," but I don't think he's going to change his name. And like, imagine in episode 10 they show us a name
Or maybe
change
his-
documents. And,
Give him-
he's just with
Yeah.
Our
he's with
fleet
the judge.
officer, and
Yeah,
then
he-
just
as long
He's with Philippa Lavoie changing his name officially.
Oh my God,
It's a
yeah,
Why won't she go in the doors again?
scene.
And she says, Jack is a toaster.
at the JAG office?
Yeah.
I love that you know her first name, Philippa.
Yeah.
Philippa Lavoie, great
Doesn't
character.
everyone
She
know
should
Philip
be
Lavoie?
back.
So
Okay,
she's there. The
She
end
gets a
is with
spin-off.
her, Vaj, Beverly, and Laris. Who else is alive? That Jean-Luc dated.
Oh my gosh,
No one
Jack
else,
Luke
right? That's
Crusher.
it.
I love it. Can we all agree that somebody has to check in with it's like in The Office in the penultimate episode where Michael Scott had to go to all his ex-lovers to check in with them? Do we have to go to all Picard's ex-lovers after he was assimilated just to make sure they don't have a secret kid? To make sure this isn't going to happen again? Is that 'cause
Yeah.
he was such a player? That, we
That brings up a
that's the next.
It's going to be called
that's
Star
legacy.
Trek Picard's
that
Angels.
brings up a practical point.
Yeah.
Because the whole show ran the idea that Picard was going to have a child, and he's the least likely person in all of Star Trek.
So
to
hell
have
took
had a
this
child.
out of my
They were,
recap.
betting on
I
Snake Eyes.
did. I did.
Oh man.
This was in my
I should have
recap.
left it
So hell
in. I
took it
know.
out.
Swinging for the fences.
Yeah, it's like the Borg laid the
That is
perfect trap,
crazy.
hoping that the loneliest man in the universe was going to have a kid.
Why did they pick Kirk? Go back in time and pick Kirk. What are you doing?
You know,
It
Stan,
only
next
took him
time-
20 years.
Yeah.
What?
You know what?
I know,
Stan?
from
left
when-
a lot
What were the
of-
chances?
I left a lot of the joke.
I
I left a
can't,
lot
I
of the
can't.
jokes in. I left a lot of the jokes in, but I didn't read them because I couldn't deliver them as well as you do. I kept hearing your voice, and I was like, I can't do it. I gotta skip that joke. So
There's a
all the
lot
jokes.
going on in the chat. Picard is not great at romance. Everybody's like, did he call Laris? No, he hasn't thought a bit about Laris this whole season. Just like he didn't think a lick about
never gonna
Beverly
see
in
Laris
seasons
again.
1 and 2. Oh, he was so sad Beverly disappeared. Oh, come on, guys. We all know Jean-Luc Picard and his one-track mind. Like, whatever's in front of him is what he's thinking about. So
Picard falls in love. Picard
This is
falls
when
in
I-
love, and then his lover leaves, and he just like adjusts his shirt, and that's
he just
pretty much
he
about
just
it.
does the Picard maneuver and
Oh
he's
my God,
fine. Like
you
Nella
guys.
Darren, I can't put somebody I'm in love with in danger, so you gotta go and lose
Yeah,
your
just leave
career.
my
Like,
ship.
yeah.
This
Get
is when I
off my
remind
bridge.
everybody of everyone of my comment from like 6 months ago that like the whole relationship between Laris and Jean-Luc is inappropriate to begin with because she frickin' worked for him for God knows how long.
And
he's
Laris
like,
wasn't Talon.
hey,
Like-
thanks for all of your hard work. Want to come upstairs? Like, no, like it's not okay.
That's
None of
not
that was
how it
okay.
happened. I don't think that's fair.
Well, she
Oh,
never
somebody's
got
saying I'm
with-
too harsh.
She
Look,
waited till
I-
he died to get with him.
I
I
am
love
a
you
little
guys
harsh
are
on
so-
Jean-Luc. It's true.
Oh.
If you haven't listened to Crusher Convo, that's kind of my brand
I-
a little bit. Sorry.
still
I'm
love
getting
Jean- I
ready,
still love-
Michelle. Like I'm.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, boy.
I still love Jean-Luc,
Parenting
but
by him in this episode. Oh God.
I still love
Yeah,
Jean-Luc,
I
but I do definitely agree he has opportunities. Speaking of parenting, Jack Crusher, the Borg Prince, had
Oh my
I
God,
was
don't call him that.
he's the Borg Prince. Sorry. Anyways, that's what
Why
he
not?
is.
Yeah.
He's the Borg Prince. That's who he is. But anyways,
Prince William of
She
Borg.
called him my child, so
Yep,
did,
she sure
yeah.
did.
she thinks he's the Borg Prince. The
oh, she's
the thing
Kai
that-
Wynn.
what- even the first time I watched the episode, when Jean-Luc says no, when Beverly says we should tell him, and Jean-Luc's like no, I was like, bad
that?
idea. Yeah,
No.
Like,
No!
yeah.
Don't go
bad
alone.
idea. Don't go
You-
alone.
But guess what? She was
Awful.
nearby
And-
because she saw him
and he
leaving.
did.
Running down the hallway,
he
like,
did.
what did he do? What happened?
He messed it up,
She
but
knew.
he totally
She was
messed it up
nearby.
because Jack says, "Look at me. What do you see?" And Jean-Luc can't do it. And it's I know if Beverly was there, she would have looked at him. She would have comforted him. She would have touched him. She would have hugged him. There would have been contact. So I think it's purposely done. I think it's brilliant that they had Picard go in and do that because it did set Jack off. I'm just saying. I was like, no, it's not going to
And
go
look,
well.
I love Jean-Luc Picard. I know people
like,
think I'm
one of
very
them
harsh
raped
with
him
him,
for
and
20
sometimes
years.
I am, but I think
You
he
are.
is.
That's okay.
I am. And it's partly because I'm such a fan of Beverly, who is also often treated harshly in the fandom. So I'm a little bit defensive of Beverly, so that makes me a little bit more when it comes to Picard's actions involving her. And this whole season has been about their son and the way that he's trying to be a father in a week, and it's just not working for me. Like he's boxing Beverly out. All these scenes between him and Jack, it's just them. It's Beverly. Beverly should have been there in this instance. Beverly should have been.
Let me put a proposition here. Look at the
Just
next
from a
generation
parenting
and
perspective.
fathers. The next
Oh, hey.
generation has done a terrible job with fathers.
Ken and then Kevin. Sorry, I just wanted to give an order because
I mean,
go
all
ahead.
the way back to when Picard's father showed up on the Enterprise. All the way back then, Worf as a dad. Riker losing his son. Riker, I think, doing a good job with Kestra, but the dads in Star Trek: The Next Generation, you could do a whole study on that. Probably the best father. Riker's dad, right? Riker's dad, and even LaForge trying to protect his daughters and saying you can't go on. I mean, the dads in Star Trek have been not the best. Even going back to Jim Kirk and David, and David. So, and then if you look at the moms, how many moms have you seen? The biggest mom figure probably in all of Star Trek is Lwaxana, right? And look at her. So Star Trek has done it.
Sexy at any age. That's a great
Keiko.
example of how moms should be.
Keiko is a good example. Keiko did a
She
great
was
job.
getting it right till the end.
Yeah.
And
Kevin.
I think B'Elanna would have had like an amazing opportunity to be a great mom if
Yep.
they had like developed that.
But Star Trek has a
Kevin.
very interesting relationship with parents. Sorry, go ahead.
No one wants Kevin to speak. No, I'm just kidding.
Once
Kevin.
once B'Elanna
That's
stopped
fair,
trying
that's
to
fair.
alter the genetic appearance of her child, yes, she would have been a great mother.
Oh my God, I forgot
Kevin,
about
make it quick because we're gonna interrupt you.
So so Jack was raised by his mother, and they worked together, so they were in each other's presence. So then, this random dude that he's just met decides that the most exciting news that he's ever gonna hear in his entire life should be given by the dude and not the mother. Crazy. Then you go to the tactics of it. Also crazy. Then you go to guard up. You heard that the boy controls people. Is on the ship. Enough, this is what I mean, but the show
Plot.
gives you settings where characters that we love interact well, but how they get out never makes sense.
It's
The
just
last
like
thing I'll say
Wesley.
is
It's just like
about,
when Picard was with Wesley.
Yeah.
You know? It was always just Picard and Wesley.
Yeah.
Same thing.
As if his mother didn't mean anything to him. But the last thing I'll say is, for anyone who speaks French, they would have picked this up earlier, but Je regrette rien, that French song, is the most inappropriate song for a parent to be sharing with a child. So for those of you, go find the translated lyrics. It is not the sweet song that y'all think it is.
It is the only French song that American media knows about. So it is the only French song they will ever put in any film or any TV show. And they think it applies to everything because they go like, oh, it says, I regret nothing. And it's like, perfect. It applies to everything. No, it applies to nothing.
Talking about,
Yeah.
Fascinating. Robbie, were you going to say something?
I'm not singing it to my children.
I rewatched Borg recently, and I was kind of disappointed in Troy in this episode because at the start of Borg, Troy says to Picard, do you want to talk about Hugh being on the ship? I feel like that would stir some feelings. And she's the one that's, the counselor. She's supposed to be mature about the Borg. And so her kind of trying to help Jack and then seeing the Borg cube and just running away from her patient and going straight to Picard. I didn't like that development. I would have loved if we saw a bit more counseling before going to Picard, or involving Picard and Beverly in the counseling as she's going through his mind and kind of learning more.
Given the severity of what she saw, and given that there are apparently established security protocols that she as a commander in Starfleet is aware of, it actually would have been better if she had stepped out of the room and sealed him in it. If she just found out her patient is a threat to the entire Federation, she should have locked the door and then gone and told his parents. Not wait here, I'll be right back. That seemed to kind of break away from what the extreme nature of what she was revealing.
So, but what if she did? Because I was really curious of why he didn't leave.
Mm-hmm.
But I was curious why he didn't follow. I was curious why Jack didn't even follow Deanna, why he just stayed in the room.
A few people should have followed at they had a whole lot of people staying in a room in this episode for some reason.
Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah. That's maybe she did. I don't know. We just don't know about it because they don't say it.
How people enter and leave never makes sense in the show. So I think we all just have to give up on that. People are going to arrive in the room and be with the people that they need to talk to, and then they're just going to arrive in the night and be with the people that they need to talk to, and all of the dangers that are in between will disappear to the extent that they need to disappear to get people to be in the right room.
It was very TNG.
The show just doesn't believe
this was the
in
most
TNG
TNG episode in that way. Having when Deanna got to sickbay and just having the camera linger on her face for 3 seconds longer than you should start talking, Deanna. What? Okay, go. Anytime I rewatch a TNG episode, there's always just before they go to commercial, it's kind of hilarious watching it now. Like the camera just lingers on their face for 5 seconds when something dramatic just happened that they clearly should be reacting to, but it's like commercial. And I agree. Like she could have done a little bit more. I thought it made sense. I thought her actions made sense, except for like the not locking in or like saying something to him. Like it was very like, oh my God, I have to go. Like clearly she's troubled about something that's going to freak out the patient. And like, I liked that they gave her more in this episode than she typically got in TNG. So it kind of felt like 2 steps forward, 1 step back in that way. And with Picard and Beverly, I agree that I thought they could have had the conversation together, but I do understand Picard leading that conversation because he was the one who was assimilated, and he is even though it's not his fault, he is sort of the cause of this. And so for me, the problem wasn't that he was the one having the conversation, it was the execution of it. Like if you don't want him to have a bad reaction, then like there's a different way to have that conversation. And obviously we know from the entire show, like the whole fucking purpose of this show is that Jean-Luc Picard is not capable of having an emotionally intelligent conversation outside of a first contact diplomacy situation.
Now, I would agree with you about Picard leading the conversation because he was assimilated, but Beverly is the one that deborged him. So it's not like she doesn't know what's going on. So I think both of them being in that conversation would have been important, especially because he's never been a parent and she has, and this was going to be very, very big news. Yes. So I agree, but you know.
What Marshall said only 2 people could be in the room. It's a fire marshal.
What makes me think it was intentional though is that when Jack, here's Jean-Luc not touching Jack. Jack pulls the guns on Jean-Luc, and Jean-Luc's like, "What's this?" And Jack walks out. Beverly doesn't give a fuck. She's charging. She doesn't care. She's gonna go through those people to get to her son, and I love that.
He pulled guns on her. He pulled guns on his mother.
Yeah,
I know. And
I'm not okay, guys.
Right. I know.
They were unstunned.
Okay,
they were unstunned.
But it was a good scene though because
Thank you for headcanoning that.
I thought it was a good scene.
I have a question though.
Go ahead.
So he knows he needs to do something. He needs to save everyone, and Frontier Day is the day that everything's going to go down. So why didn't he just warp in the opposite direction and wait out 24 hours for it to be Frontier Day +1? If he was going to try,
because
Superman doesn't leave Earth when clearly
its own premise.
He's trying to prove something to Jean-Luc, who's here trying to put him in a Vulcan academy. It pisses him off. He's totally irrational. I mean, he pulls guns on his mother. I think he might have been open to something else. I think there might have been something else if he, as Stan said, if he were approached the right way. But instead, he got triggered and went. And he's like, "Okay, you guys don't believe in me. You think I'm dangerous. I'm gonna." And he even says it to Beverly. He says something like, "You know what? I'm gonna find out. I'm going to give her exactly what she wants. I'm going to get as close as I can." And unfortunately it doesn't happen, but it could still, I'm going to get as close. I'm going to get those answers. And then I'm going to show her what I'm really there for. Cause he still wants he wants to end this one way or another. Go ahead. Sorry.
He's conveniently stupid in the way that everyone is conveniently stupid in this show. Because I get that.
But when they're angry, you're looking at it from. I believe you're looking at it from a perspective of calm as an audience member. But I've been in situations where I've made the stupidest mistakes, and I've done the stupidest things through anger. What's that? I could.
Mass murder, but there are degrees. But no one's ever run to a mass murderer. All reacts, but we remember Jack has always been presented up until this point as so smart. He's outsmarting 7 of 9, and I get that their stress doesn't lead you directly to the most destructive force your galaxy ever seen, with the idea that you, as an individual, was magically going to turn the tide against this villain that has decimated your culture for decades. It just,
Well,
I get what you're saying. I don't think Jack is so much the source of the problem that you're citing, but more a symptom of like the greater problem that is like the stakes are too high and the plot is too big and absurd. Like if this were a smaller scale story where it weren't like a complete annihilation thing, where we were doing a bit of family drama, Beverly, Picard, they're reuniting. The reason why like she held like this son far away from Picard is because she realized that, I don't know, something stupid. Like when she got close to him, it was triggering like some sort of Borg whatever.
You're trying to prove that you're trying to prove something's stupid by saying, "Oh, let's introduce another stupid plot." I don't agree.
No,
I think
I'm just saying I'm just saying the plot is massive, like and like the I don't know, it's over the top. And so I think that like the problem that he has with like Jack's stupidity in this situation is more of a symptom of like the massive stupidity of the plot than like that's what I think. That's what
I
I'm
feel like imagine
too.
him trying to go after Ruafu, right? Like it wouldn't be as absurd.
Yeah, right, exactly. It wouldn't be as dramatic, like as intensely ridiculous.
I think too.
Oh,
well, I was just gonna say, I think too. I think also confusion is in his mind too, because he had told Beverly, like, I thought I was hearing your voice and it was not you, right? Which was kind of a low blow for her, because then it's like, I'm supposed to, he said home, right? So I'm supposed to be here, but he thinks that he's strong enough to fight her, and he's not, because he is acting irrational and he's young and he's not thinking clearly. So yeah, it's a multiple things.
Yeah, they literally just told us that his brain isn't fully developed. Like
right.
Told us everyone younger than 25 is a danger to this entire situation. Which I'll have more to say about the fact that
the assimilation cutoff.
No, that young people being irrational and assuming they know everything is dangerous. We'll talk about that later.
This whole season is just Terry Metalis talking about Gen Z being too hypersensitive.
It's or the exposure that ageism is not necessarily a good thing.
With a group of friends,
But in the episode where we were watching him be irrational and overly emotional, they just explained to us why biologically he's irrational and overly emotional. So like, I'm not saying it works, because it's like, oh, how convenient that we had that plot reveal 3 minutes before he behaved so irrationally. But like, the information was there. Like, they did tell us this guy's a hothead, and then boom, he acts hot-headed. Now, granted, they could have made him a little more hot-headed the last 8 episodes to make it a little more in character, but I don't want to. It does feel a little nitpicky that we're like, he ran off and did something stupid. Yeah, no shit.
I think he's been exhibiting this
because of his age, 25.
I think he's been exhibiting this behavior.
I
think he's been exhibiting this behavior. He was pretty manic when he was he gets manic a lot. Like, he gets really excited and kind of manic, especially when he was like excited about the space baby plan. Like, I thought he was a little bit much there. So they've been kind of setting up this, and he even talks about how he's kind of like he is a bit of a control freak, in the sense that like if something's not going his way, he defaults to using charm as a way to kind of make things go his way. And now he's past that. Like, that no longer is there's no way to charm yourself out of this situation. It makes sense to me. I don't know. I respect your opinions, guys, but I think that like he's totally in line with the character that they've been setting up this whole time. But
he's ignoring
one of the
everyone
challenges.
else's
One of the challenges this show. One of the challenges I have with this show is that they know they've got plot points. I've said this before. They've got plot points they have to hit. And sometimes they just have got to drive that plot. And if characters have to act a little bit out of character to get to the plot point, I mean, they needed to get Jack to the Borg to face the Queen, because that's the way the plot is going to break.
Yep.
So if you're going to have a situation where, the plot overrides the characters, we just have to either go along for the ride, or we can nitpick it to death. But, the fact is, this is how the story had to break. And so they're breaking it this way.
They've been doing it since Discovery. Like, they changed Pike. Like, we need Saru to be like this. Pike's going to be flimsy.
I hate
Michael
the idea
Burnham to do this thing.
They have to be one thing all the time, stoic, consistently.
No.
I really It
But
really
I'm not
bugs
saying
me
that.
that
I'm not
people.
saying that's how
It really bugs me that people are
I
like,
don't think
"Oh,
that's what
this
I love-
character changed and doesn't
love
like is not what
Voyager.
I expected." Oh,
They
that
did it
never
with
happens in
Janeway.
real
No,
life. You
That's
know,
not
like
what we're
that
saying.
never
It's not-
happens in real
it's not
life.
to change because I don't think that's what anyone's saying. It's not about character change because character change is more human. That's not what it is. It's character. It's not a question of we're expecting a personality throughout. It is, there should be a logical progression, both in story and in character. And
There
I
is.
think it's
Happy to
unfair to
illustrate it
say
to
that
you.
we are unwilling to change because we do, but no, in one character, but again, like we can compare it to other stories that we watch. Characters change, characters regress. All of that's acceptable, but the story makes sense. It follows its own internal logic. And I think one of the things here is you have so many of the choices it has chosen to make in the air. It is a choice. So it has made these choices, and I think it's fair to say this is work, but a lot of these choices don't flow logically. Like, we don't have to love it completely and just pretend we're not seeing what we're seeing.
Yeah, I would just say just really quickly.
One has to be the same way in episode 10.
Yeah, I think it's this is, you have to expect this with the story and characters evolving over 10 episodes. To me, like Jay had pointed out something in the chat about like if Jack was a woman, I don't know that everybody would be as forgiving. I'm just going to throw that out there. Because look at Michael Burnham, look at even Soji, right? Everybody's like, oh, irrational Soji. Like, you know, where is Soji this season? I don't know. She should be here, but she's not. She dated his daughter. Does Data know he has a daughter? I don't know. Besides LOL, I don't know. But aside from that, like Beverly, I mean, a lot of us Bev heads were like, Beverly hit a kid for no, like, just because she was afraid. I don't know. Like, we struggled, some of us, not all of us, but some, even Gates McFadden mentioned that, you know, it wasn't going to be because Beverly's this selfish woman, right? Even she was like, yeah, we got to work on this, right? Like, what are her reasons? Let's try to get reasons. And I think here with Jack, we can have reasons. There are reasons. He's been, I mean, episode 2, he was ready to give himself up. I would have rathered that he give himself up to save the crew than just go off on a shuttle. I thought they were going to fire on him. I thought Deanna was going to say, we may have to, you know, that conversation about Vadic and having to kill Vadic. Were they going to have to kill Jack? And, you know, that's
Deanna
really
should have taken over the helm and rammed into that shuttle.
I
Remember
tweeted at Starfleet. I tweeted at Starfleet Sahel while I was watching the episode. When Deanna ran out from that conversation, I was like half expecting her to just run up to Beverly and Picard and say, "We have to kill him." Like,
that's what I thought was going to happen. That's the bad news.
He's
I thought she was
become
going to
the
drop.
Borg.
Not,
He is the Borg.
yeah.
We kill him.
Yeah.
Now that would have been an interesting
Justify the
twist.
running out.
Before we move on
dark-sided.
from Jack, Braxton has not liked Jack this whole season. Real quick, sorry, Kevin. Braxton has not liked Jack this whole season, and he started to like him in, what was it, episode 7?
Is he good enough for LaForge now?
Yeah,
no.
Yeah. So yeah, Braxton, what's the latest update from you on Jack Crusher?
Oh, dude, I still don't like Jack. I want to know. Oh no, dude, I still don't like Jack. I was actually really happy that we only had like him in like the first like 7 minutes. You know, like he went through the door, like he, you know, got assimilated, and then he was gone. And I really enjoyed the show without him, just generally, you know. But I have not, I haven't really liked his story. You know, like I don't know, like I feel like they could have told the same story, but like the mother could have been different, and Beverly still could have been there doing all her things. But I don't know. I still don't prefer Jack, and I was glad that he was only in it for a few minutes, and I enjoyed most of the story.
Resistance is future, Braxton.
Yeah. Kevin, what were you going to say? Sorry to interrupt you earlier.
Oh, no, don't be sorry. So last week, remember, just as Deanna and Jack were getting ready to do the thing that they were doing, she carrying him and saying, I'm with you, we're doing this together. And it actually reminded me of an situation that I had at an old job where they said, this is a safe place. We share your experiences, whatever. And this guy gets up, his experience, and the facilitator just attacked him. And I'm like, oh, tricked him. And that's how I felt watching this. Like, you told him you'd be there with him the entire time. You literally said that. And then boom, you're out. Like, you set him up.
I'm
So
adding
I
your
thought
own.
The reason that she left had to be. I thought she was going to say, like, everyone, that, oh, we have to kill him. Because what other reason would she have for running and betraying her promise? And then was just like, oh, yeah, I got something to say. And he's in the room and stuff will happen.
Well, she did say she said, sorry, there are protocols. She had to, so she's the one who put the whole protocols thing into play.
If you find out your patient is a weapon of mass destruction, you can run.
But she's also
the one.
Yes,
but I will
then
just
you
say
have to
that
treat him like
adds
he's a weapon
to.
of mass destruction. You can't get through and then pretend he's just like if he's.
But
a weapon
I
of
will
mass
just say
destruction,
that
let's treat him like it.
That adds to my point about like his whole frustration. He's been left in this room for, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes trying to figure out why she freaked out and left the room. You know, like he's been stewing in these like ideas.
Poor guy. That to be fair,
like,
that's pretty dreadful to like sit through that. Like they're letting him stir in this.
Yeah,
am I really a terrible,
Agreed.
horrible person and they hate me so much, or they're scared of me so much that they're just gonna leave me sit here? Like if he were the Hulk, he would have destroyed everything.
So, like,
I just need someone to lock the shuttle bay. That's all I ask. Just lock the freaking shuttle bay.
We got to hurry up because we're coming up to almost like an hour and a half here. But I just want to talk about Frontier Day. Your thoughts on Frontier Day? Let's start with you, Robbie.
I don't really know about Frontier Day, but you know what's really disappointing in retrospect? I feel like, and I love that episode with Ensign Rowe, but now that we've had Shelby in this episode, I feel like that episode would have been so much better to tie into the main kind of season if that had been Shelby and she'd kind of helped Picard and the crew and kind of shared her findings about the Borg kind of infiltrating, but then you wouldn't have this huge reveal, you know, because it would make sense because she was back on the Enterprise in Best of Both Worlds, and then you could have a kind of growth between Riker and Shelby from Best of Both Worlds. But I also loved the Ensign Rowe episode.
It was good. It was very good.
Anyone else have thoughts on Frontier Day? Shelby, the Enterprise F.
I think Shelby should have been helping them.
Yeah.
Because that would have been a nice thing. Like she could have died, but like in the next episode, after trying to deal with the Borg, instead of her just getting shot and not knowing what was going on, I loved Shelby. I thought she was. I'm going to use my one curse word, but she was kick ass in Beth the Boat's world. And this just was a very empty death to me because it happened so quickly. Death. You know, it was just weird to bring back a pretty strong character and then she's just gone and not knowing what was happening. So I wish they would have done more with her.
It's a questionable coincidence that two very powerful female leads come back to the show just to be killed. It's not really making me happy.
It's not good. It's not good.
Well, Shelby,
and they also made her
with Shelby was that she came back and like Riker's taking a dig at her, Picard's questioning it as if she was the one that was pioneering this connection with Fleet, which doesn't make any sense. So was she a changeling? Because why would Shelby want all of these Fleet ships connected? Mm-hmm. It's true. It's a good point. Maybe she'll pop up in the last episode, like, really not dead. I was a changeling.
It's like Mad Eye Moody and Harry Potter.
But like they just shoot her, and it's just like, well, we didn't like her anyway. It's like bringing back Jellicoe and offing him in like 2 minutes.
I mean, some people would be fine with that.
Too many
shifts.
Too many shifts. We're changelings in Borg. We don't do 17 shifts. What are you talking about?
I love the idea of the one we saw be killed. We find out later was a changeling, and Shelby and Janeway and Tuvok bust out and save the day in some way.
Shelby,
but
Janeway, and Tuvok.
My problem with
team.
Yeah, my problem with the Shelby thing was, number one, they made her give an inaccurate speech, which, you literally just put up a quote about it. it's wrong.
Yeah.
It's wrong. Starfleet existed upon the launch of the NX-01.
Yes.
However, while this thought was triggered, I did remember there are plenty of things that we call inaccurate things. That's the most nebulous way of saying that. Like the War of 1812 did not only happen within that year, like that entire conflict. That's what I mean. But the other thing that bothered me was they gave her this speech to talk about like the most amazing advancement we have ever had. Synchronized flying. What? Like we're like what?
That
Like
air show.
Formation.
Like fleet formation.
We have pilots that can do this manually today.
We've seen fleet formations before. Like, come on.
At least perfect the Colbert Starburst. Like, if you're gonna do formation,
Well, the other thing is
some
that
exhaust on fire, bitches.
I don't know the timeline between this and Prodigy, because what happened at the end of Prodigy, when all of the ships were taken over by the entity and Starfleet was, I mean, that to me, if that happened before this, or if it happened after this, it should never, one of the two should never happen. Because if this happens first, those ships should never be connected in Prodigy. If Prodigy happened first, this should never happen in Picard.
Unless everyone making the decision are changelings.
And Prodigy happened first.
Prodigy takes place.
I have a question for the group.
10 years earlier.
My thoughts on Frontier Day is a short. It's stupid.
Yeah,
I think it's a stupid thing, and I think
It's a
that
shit
showing
holiday.
the whole fleet, which is what, like 6 ships, is stupid.
265 actually.
Oh, well, I mean, I was expecting like thousands, but okay.
So
there's like no Vulcan ships, there's no Tellarite ships, there's no Andorian ship. It's just Starfleet, standardized human ships. Like everyone's here too, like in this sector. It's stupid. It's a stupid concept. I don't like it.
Also, if you're not in Starfleet, do you give a flying
I have a question about that, too.
about Frontier Day? Like, are the people on Earth all like, "Yay, ships that we don't even want to be on because we live on a planet"? Like,
free churros.
What is the,
we get those all year.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
Free churros. I love that. Street corn.
So I'm sure everyone cares. But my question is it's so stupid. Frontier Day, but the number of ships. I think Toddy, you said it. We've seen seen individual fleets within Starfleet with more ships than what they showed us is the total of all of Starfleet. So I just if all of Starfleet was there, we shouldn't have seen any black. Or unless Starfleet's been decimated in the years between the Dominion War and now, and we haven't heard about it. There were 2 ships.
That would have given purpose, actually. That would have given purpose to like the synchronized formation, because if there's so many ships, you can't manually maneuver your ship around. You're gonna hit something. So at least like the computer takes over, and then you can actually like get everyone really close, and then create like a shield wall.
It's the ultimate in air traffic control.
Yeah, this is one of those things that like I've talked about these on these spaces before. Like another line of dialogue would have really helped, because like you need a little bit of headcanon to make it make sense in universe. It's sort of like the speed of plot thing with warp drive and like the museum being 5 minutes away from Earth. Like that, I got over that years ago, because that's not new in Star Trek.
Sure.
Yeah.
Today we had like the opposite of the Enterprise is the only ship available to take on insert threat of the movie or whatever. But I like, it's one of those like another couple of lines of dialogue, which I know I was just ranting earlier about being exposition heavy, but like the way that I saw this was like I literally did count, and I'm sure I miscounted, but I got to 265 in that final like fleet wide shot. To me, that was one chunk of the fleet there in the Sol system. And they've been saying, like I was talking about this in Twitter with people here. I think was it you, Trev, or Sohail, but like it was hyperbolic. I think when they're saying the entire fleet, like there is no universe in which Starfleet, even if controlled by mostly changelings, would completely commit and get to this point with that, like in my head, like there's still ships on deep patrol, there's still ships on deep space assignments. Like we saw 265, and even if you triple that, and like that was in the Sol system, there are still hundreds of ships out there. But that said, losing even just 265 ships, like we saw just 40 ships in Best of Both Worlds, is devastating. It's not just like the loss of life, but it fucks with Starfleet, right? And I think somebody was bringing up Prodigy earlier. Like, yeah, that happening should have negated this. At the same time, it could have, like, sometimes we take the wrong lessons from shit that happens, right? Like, you know what would have been great is if we weren't susceptible. I'm glad we're having this conversation because I'm creating a thought pattern in my own head.
Nice.
In Prodigy, the construct was able to communicate with all these ships and take them over. Today, when I was watching this episode the second time, I was like, well, wait a minute, why aren't they allowing them to even talk to each other? That seems, it's because of the construct incident that they shut down comms, so they can't be taking control.
Oh, I like that.
Only
And
Starfleet ships can synchronize with each other. And now
That
there's
only
a new problem
200
that we're seeing.
that only 260 were in Earth orbit, or 270, whatever, doesn't mean that not every ship is actually enabled with this synchronized swimming version of
random
Starship
ships
navigation.
synchronizing in like
Right,
random
right.
solar systems.
They're all with little shower caps on. No,
I love how nerdy
the,
we're getting. Thanks for.
but I would
inputting it.
assume that this synchronicity exists on every ship. It's just they're not all in the Sol system.
Yeah.
Can I ask
in
a
the-
What about-
question about the end?
Okay, so
why do
what
we
does
think
it
they
do?
went to Earth instead of trying to find Jack? I have this burning question because
Right.
why are they going to face all these ships versus just trying to like kill the Borg Queen? I don't know.
I also had a question too. Like, what about the Academy? Like, anyone that has a transporter, are they like? Is Kestra okay? Because she's supposed to be.
Yeah,
Pacific
Riker and
Academy.
Troy
Eleanor-
seem very unconcerned
was-
about their child.
I know, they seem
their last
fine.
remaining child. Yes.
Also,
don't
Eleanor
know.
was on the
The Excelsior.
Like
when we
Enterprise
saw her.
D.
Yeah, they killed Elnor again today.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Stop it!
Oh.
Stop
No, he's
it!
not dead.
No.
That was
to
mentioned.
answer-
Yeah.
You
To
can't
answer your
die
first
until you die
question-
3 times. You have to die 3 times in Star Trek.
Well, this is why the
Michelle-
Enterprise D stuff was hard for me because I'm like the stakes are too high. Like yet again, it's galaxy-ending stuff, and we can't really enter into this beautiful moment. As at least for me, as much as I would have liked. It's kind of like in Star Trek 3 when David Marcus was killed. And Kirk seemed more upset about the Enterprise going down in flames, as were we all in the audience, right? But it doesn't match with like the emotional arc of what should be the character. So it's a little weird. It's a little weird that everybody's very nostalgic about the D when it's like all of your kids are in like mortal danger.
Yeah,
That's just
I have to argue that Kirk would be more upset
digging
about the
up
Enterprise.
rocks.
Can
Yeah.
I just have an off topic question here because as
Well,
everyone
before-
knows, I just watched the OG.
Hold your question real quick, or say your
Okay.
question, but then I want to address your other questions. I can't keep 5 questions in my head. So,
Oh, well, I think these are just questions that can't be answered, right? But no, my thing is that where was Carol Marcus and all, and David died, and I was all like, where's the mom?
exactly. Yep.
Okay,
They did
no
her
one knows.
dirty.
Okay, I'm
They
just
did her
I was
dirty.
just curious.
I
This
think
is
it's
Star
no-
Trek.
I
What do
think
you
it's
mean?
no-
Where's
It's
the
Star
mom?
Trek.
yeah,
It's Star
true.
Trek.
I
Only
thought
meta.
Disney. Was
Like I
only
said
good for-
earlier,
but
parents. Star Trek has had problems with parents.
So the whole thing about the D, I thought it was Robbie brought it up in his opening statement too about like Picard, marveling at how beautiful she is, while his son is, in danger, and when I rewatched the episode, I think he was. I feel like, and I don't know if I'm just reading too much into this, but Patrick Stewart seemed to give like this like kind of like I think it would have been a different reaction had it been just like, oh, Geordi has been working on this surprise guys on the anniversary of the Enterprise crashing on it would have been a whole different reaction. I do think though that like there are positive things that can take you out of grief or sorrow or something for just a moment. So I do think it was appropriate. Now, the show did make it a big deal. Yes, with that glorious music and the panels lighting up beautifully and all that. So, but I don't think that the characters were too wildly outside of like what they were doing. To answer why the Enterprise went to back to Sol system instead of to Jack, I think they've realized once they were in the situation, again, maybe this I'll pay attention better when I'm watching it, but I think they realized, okay, we have to get back to the Sol system because Jack is probably going to end up there anyways, or somehow, because they don't know where he is. So it's better to go where the threat is happening because he'll probably somehow end up there, or maybe their actions there they think will help him somehow. But I'm not, that's just my best guess.
I'll allow it.
And then
I like it.
thank you.
Yeah, the only thing that worries me is that you've got a situation here where if Jack ends up being the hero of this series, that can't be what happens. So you've got to find a way where Beverly and Jean-Luc end up being the hero of this series.
Yeah. But don't make him the villain either. Like, I don't care enough about him for him to be important either way.
Right.
I don't want him to be villain or hero. Jack was a tool for like the plot to move along. Fine.
That's exactly. I hope he's an instrument of the resolution, not the hero of the resolution.
Yeah, it's just all right, whatever. Like, he was a plot point.
Right. I was
going to say,
I may be the only one besides Jesse here that loves Jack. So I am a Jack fan.
I love Jack.
And
he's my husband.
I don't have I don't appreciate some of his actions, but we're not perfect, right? So I think with Jack, he will probably be at this point just a tool because he's assimilated. Like
he's another Elnor.
He has failed. Yeah, and Elnor was awesome. I loved Elnor.
He was great. He was a fantastic
sword. Who Picard
abandoned
on that planet? Like, again, I'm sorry. I just
feel like
where are they? Where's Soji and Elnor and all of? I get it. Budget.
They're assimilated. They're assimilated right now.
Yeah, because they're all too young. Like Soji's assimilated. Is that not scary? That Soji's. That planet that Jack was on, that planet that they mentioned at the very beginning where he talked about the flowers, that was the Delton planet that Soji was on in season 2. Right. That's named after a place in New Jersey.
Someone in the comments.
Raritan.
Someone in the comments said that she's still drinking water with the Deltons, and I started cracking up.
Yes.
That's so funny.
Hey, if you had a chance to hang out with the Deltons, you'd be drinking water too.
But I think that by the way, I love Jack. I've declared him as my space husband, and I hope he doesn't die. And I hope he's unassimilated.
You have 18 space husbands.
No, they're dead. You only have one.
Oh, my bad.
Alive. Yeah, I have only one that's alive right now, and hopefully
he's alive at the moment. Yeah.
I kind of wouldn't mind him being heroic. I think Star Trek has always been kind of like trying to show that there are many heroes, like especially like later. It's like, I know, of course, we all remember Janeway, and of course we all remember Archer, the captains, they're like such big figures. But I do think Star Trek tries to give heroic moments to others. And I do think Jack, I predict Jack will have a heroic moment, and I don't mind, but I don't think he's going to be the hero of the story. Perhaps the hero is going to be the Enterprise D.
I think the family itself. So as of Picard, Beverly, and Jack are the hero, like one as the family.
Yes, I agree. It's going to be a tug of war between the Borg Queen and Beverly and Jean-Luc for Jack's soul. And Jack is going to, go back and forth, and ultimately he's going to turn to Beverly and Jean-Luc, and Jack's going to use his powers once he realizes he's his parents are his parents, and that's what's going to happen.
He's special. Maybe like they talk about the good in him, and they talk about he got the best of Beverly. Maybe Beverly, who she is going to factor into this in some way, so that Jack being the hero is because he's the son of Picard and Beverly.
Of course.
Not necessarily, PB&J for the win, Jesse.
Yes.
That's what's going to happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, I got to go, guys, because I got to take care of stuff before
we have something going on tonight, don't we?
I know. We
got to get my screaming goats ready.
In less than 30 minutes on Twitter Spaces. Jesse, can you tell folks where to find you and what you guys are talking about tonight, if anything other than this episode, obviously, but
just a react and review of this episode over at Crusher Convo on Twitter. Us and a bunch of Bev heads will be talking about this episode, but yeah, I'll give my rating real fast. I'm gonna say 9 Bev sciencing the science out of 10.
I love it. Thank you so much for coming on, Jesse. I really appreciate
Good
it.
seeing you,
I
Jesse.
can't wait to see you on Crusher Convo. All right. We got to go real quick now. So the Borg Queen. Who wants to talk about the Borg Queen? I'll say something real quick. I love that it's
Right.
Alex.
I'm sorry
Alex
to
Kriga.
interrupt, but if you count on carrying on, I am also going to leave. It is
What?
time for me to leave. I'm going to give my rating and leave. I thought you were going to do the ratings.
No. But well, what'd you think of the Borg Queen? Give your rating and then see you later.
And then get out, apparently. Jeez.
I didn't
Alice
think
Krieger,
much
by
of
the way, you interrupted me, and I'm going to interrupt you now. The Alice Krieger was the highlight of the Borg part for me because I love her, and I'm so glad that she's reprising her role as the Borg Queen, even if it's by voice. Some are speculating there'll be a different face, but I don't think so. All right, now you go.
Yeah, I was happy to hear the voice. I'm not that like in love with seeing the Borg Queen like every time we have a new show though. I'm okay with like less Borg Queen. And just to comment on what Robbie was saying earlier, I actually think the Borg are more terrifying when there isn't a single voice to humanize them, because I think the fact that they are so distant from like what we consider like human, or I think that's even more terrifying. The fact that they're just like this faceless entity that indiscriminately like assimilates or murders and just takes over. I think that that's much more terrifying than actually having someone like the Borg Queen, as good as the performance was in First Contact. So yeah, so I'm fine with them like not having a particular voice. Yeah, I'll give this a very standard 7 out of 10. It's a fine episode. I do have my critiques, but I got to admit that the nostalgia is just winning me over, and that's what these episodes are made for. So it's accomplishing what it's setting out to do.
Very
Thank
good.
you so much
Thanks
for having me,
coming on.
everyone. Sorry, I gotta
seeing
leave.
ya.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya. Anyone else have thoughts on the Borg Queen?
I'm curious whether we'll see, like, if we're going to see the Borg Queen's face, how are they going to match that up with Alice Krieger? You know, that's going to be tricky.
What do you mean?
Like, if the Borg Queen isn't played by her in appearance.
Oh, just like that, maybe she'll try to trick Jack and put Beverly's face on. Maybe she can swap faces now or something like that. You know, just that kind of thing.
Maybe
You
the
never
Borg
know
Queen
what
is a changeling.
Oh, maybe the Borg Queen adapted the changeling. You know,
Mhm.
maybe once you can
Assimilated the
actually
changelings.
like assimilate a changeling, you can adapt and change your face. So yeah, that could be a
Yeah.
possibility. That was, I think Mrs. Powell family came up with that. That was a pretty cool idea.
Maybe
'cause
she'll
it's
look
kind
like
of creepy.
Vatic.
Yeah, she does mention Vatic a couple times, so they were
She
tight,
does.
even though she was freaking mean as hell to Vatic and was like not very kind to her. So, but she did say that she and Vatic have the same like kind of vision and stuff like that. Kevin, I think you're on mute. Oh, that's weird.
His sound.
We may
is-
have lost
now he's
it.
on mute.
The Borg Queen has silenced the vox of Kevin.
Yeah.
Let me check the settings here. Let me see if I can help you out there. Anyone else? Braxton or Michelle Borg Queen stuff?
Yeah, I mean,
Stan?
it was interesting. I you know, after season 2, I didn't think we would see the Borg Queen again. They kind of have done this plot of like, what if the Borg were good, you know? So I don't know. Again, I have to look back. I don't think I remembered what happened on Voyager, so I'm gonna probably do a quick rewatch of those episodes on Voyager. Some people are saying, you know, maybe it was like partial Janeway or something, like future Janeway. I don't know how they're bringing the Borg Queen back. It was definitely her voice from the movie. So like the same actress. So I was also like thinking of Annie. I was thinking of Annie, and I feel bad. It would have been nice to see Annie again one last time.
Yeah,
I wonder if they've
back.
I wonder if they
Had-
filmed Annie here because they were shot back to back, and then they didn't finish with her, and they had to maybe get Alice come in to do the voice pickup. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. She was like an alternate timeline Borg Queen, so it's strange. And then she turned into Girardi Borg Queen. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I mean, I think that looking at the Coda books, it would be very interesting if we were actually to get what was in the Coda books. I need to see Beverly really losing it and fighting for her kid here as much as I need to see, Jean-Luc doing the same. I think they need to be partners here and going to get their boy and, just kind of doing that.
I suspect that that's what's going to happen. I kind of like, at heart, I'm a Picrusher fan. I want that to happen, but I also kind of like don't think that Jean-Luc is ready even now. Like, I'm sorry, like he hasn't really exhibited like the readiness that like Guinan and Q were alluding to, at least not with Beverly. But maybe that can change, because there are a couple of times I've noticed that Jean-Luc's trying, but then something happens and it doesn't work for whatever a valid reason.
Beverly has shut down on him. Like, it's very apparent in this episode. Beverly has closed off. She's hugging herself. She's protecting herself from him too, I think, because he's just not. And that's where I really had problems with this episode, and I'll talk about that in Crusher Combo. Just what they've done to my favorite pair, and it just.
But I am hopeful though that like at least maybe not with the pair. We've talked about this online, but I would love that, but I don't think it's going to happen. But I do think that Crusher is going to have a great moment, because she was like not messing around at the end of this episode when she was like, I'm going to find a way to like help my son. I don't care what it takes. She's basically going to do it. Kevin, let's see if you can.
But doesn't it,
Kevin?
Can you hear me?
Oh, you're just delayed. Okay, that's what it is. We'll wait 3 seconds. Go.
Yeah. So I wish they had taken more time in the whole season. If the Borg were going to be us finding out so late, kind of sucks, because the important enemy. The rest was the appetizer. This is the meal. And we only have a couple minutes with the meal. And I don't know that there's enough time to care that much. Like, we want them to win. What this was all about. There wasn't time for them to tell us what this is all about, why we should care, coming back on yet another Star Trek show yet again. So the best we can hope for is they're going to defeat them, and then Picard and his new family are going to be together, and then we're going to forget that he ditched his girlfriend in order to be with his new old love, thumping her 5 times, and then accidentally creating a child with her. It's just it's weird. The pacing of the show is really weird.
I gotta jump on and agree with Kevin on the pacing, because part of me wishes that the door had been opened like an episode or 2 ago, and the tension built by us trying to figure out what the expo dump that we got from Beverly. It would have been cool to see her figure that out over an episode or 2. Then we have him run off to the Queen. Then we have Borg in episode 7 or 8, and then let it build slowly, as opposed to like, oh my god, it's the Borg. Why? Because of his brain. Okay, go. Like, it was just like, whoa.
Seeing Vadic talk about working with the Borg, seeing Amanda Plummer talk about working with the Borg would have been fucking delightful, because she would have ate that shit up.
Yeah.
Would have been incredible.
So
my thoughts on the Borg Queen in this episode was it was ominous and really cool. Like, even seeing her from just behind, like, was probably the most terrifying the Borg Queen has looked to me. And like, she's always been terrifying to me since from 96 in First Contact on. But the way that they showed her today, I thought was ominous and beautiful and terrifying. And my presumption is that Terry Metalis, with his nostalgia, wanted to go with Alice Krieg, and she just wasn't available to be in person. But it kind of works that way.
You don't think we're gonna see her more next episode? Like, you don't? Think
I don't know. Happen? Maybe, but like, why not show her? Well, I was about to say, why not show her this episode? If not, but then I realized, like, we've been talking about the pacing. Why not show us several things from this episode over the last couple of episodes? And then I have some Pick Crusher thoughts when the time is right.
Excellent. I'm gonna move
was a
us
tease.
quickly to Captain Shaw. Any quick reactions, and then while we're doing that, give your final thoughts because we got to get to that Crusher convo. Like I got to get there. I want to be there for sure. Wait, it's on at
9, so I should probably go and peace out.
And
yeah.
you go first then. Tell us about Shaw, and then final thoughts and a rating, and peace out.
Well, I love Todd Stashwick. I think he did a phenomenal job. And Shaw, he had an arc. I think it was a predictable-ish arc, but I like his sarcasm. I like the way he was. He got that final redemption at the end. I don't, again, like I could say a lot about Todd Stashwick. I thought he was great. But yeah, R.I.P. Shaw. Sorry, guys. And then overall, I mean, for me, it was probably a 7 out of 10 because I'm just struggling with a lot of the choices this season from the first episode to now and how they've brought Beverly back. And I don't know what they're going to do, but, I get it. Ship who you like, don't ship who you like. I get it. This is something that from TNG that I really loved, the chemistry between Patrick Stewart and Gates McFadden. And I think they had moments here, but I think they wasted a lot of that chemistry. Whatever they've done, they could have gone in many different directions. And I just felt like this cold, distant, it's not feeling great for me. And, it's just rough getting through. But I know Stan has thoughts on that as well, that I'm sure. And I get it with Laris. I don't know what's going on with Laris. I don't know why they decided to have that in this season when they didn't have to, but they did. And they're probably not going to pay it off because it's no time. But
It'll
I would
be
like
one
to
of the
get
10 endings.
Yeah,
She'll
I
be
would
sitting
like
at the bar
to.
waiting.
Yeah, I'd like to get some. I like Laris. I would like to get some resolution on Laris.
She's amazing.
Stepmom Laris. It's the
Was she a
follow-up
changeling
series
all
we need.
along?
Stepmom Laris is the season, the
Yeah.
series that we need. Forget Star Trek Legacy. It's Stepmom Laris. It's a sitcom. Laris and
I need a
Beverly love
sitcom.
each other. Beverly and Picard are not going to work out. I love y'all. I am a Beth.
You hate
as well.
me, Stan. You hate me because you know that it's
love
just
you.
like that Nausicaan blade
love
is
you.
through my heart. That Nausicaan blade has just
I cannot
ended,
get
and I'm gonna have to
behind-
rely on Pulaski to save me.
I just cannot.
Oh
get
my
behind
goodness.
The Picard sucks. Picard sucks. Picard sucks. And I want Picard and Beverly to be together. Like
I get that. I get that. I
does
think
not
that
compute for me.
I think that, and that's an accurate argument. I think that I nitpick things about Picard because there are things to nitpick. But I love Picard. Like I love the potential. I love TNG Picard. I do. I love TNG Picard. I think he went away in the movies. And I think there's a lot of first contact in Jack. A lot of things that somebody said that in the chat too. But for me as a shipper, why do I want Picard and Beverly together? Because they make each other better to me. I see them as a better tag team typically when they're not on the knife's edge of losing their son and not hiding a kid for 20 years, which is the choice they made this season. Like before this, pre-Picard season 3, I like them better together. I feel like they complement each other. I feel like there's a great chemistry between Patrick Stewart and Gates McFadden. And you know what? I'd like to see Patrick Stewart and Gates McFadden in another movie together where it's like funny and like blunt talk. I would have loved, I love their chemistry. And that's why I and I feel like Picard has never appreciated Beverly as much as he probably should have. And it would be nice for the fandom and Picard to appreciate Beverly. And he did in this episode a little bit, which was nice. But I feel like Picard's appreciation of Beverly would be nice to see. And we never saw it. Like we saw him romancing all these other women. We never saw him romance Beverly. We never saw it on screen. And you know what? TV shows, they're meant to be seen, not like less talking, more showing, less telling, more showing. And that's why. And I get it. Like I understand your confusion, Stan. Like it's,
I am not confused.
It's not rational. It's not rational.
We need Star Trek romancing the Crusher.
Yeah, let's be very clear. I am not confused about the notion. I just don't like the notion.
Okay.
Michelle,
Picard and
thank you for
Laris.
explaining your Michelle, thanks for explaining your ship, but no one has to explain their ships. It can be totally irrational. I have a lot of irrational ships, but I do agree with your ship. I am
Cough,
the
Jack,
opposite of
cough.
Ben. I want them together. Anyways, I'm gonna kick you out of here, Michelle, after you
See
give
you
your
guys
rating.
later. Have fun.
Thank
Bye,
you for
Michelle.
coming on. Love you. Kevin, I'm just gonna like kick all of you off as you give your final thoughts. So Kevin, you're next on the chopping block.
Dun, dun, dun.
All right. Oh, well. Okay, so
Just
I
final
gave
thought,
last
final
week's
thoughts,
a
Captain
5.
Shaw, and ratings. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I forgot there's a
Oh,
delay.
okay, so
Go-
oh, sorry about that. So, Shaw, I hate that I'm happy that he's dead. I think that he was given a whole lot of grace because he was male. I don't think we would let a woman do half the crap that he did, and because of that, I need him to go. It's cute that he acknowledged Seven at the end, but you don't need to be told 17,000 times to do the right thing before you do it, especially if you're a captain in Starfleet. So I just don't understand that. And then the rating for the show, I'm gonna give it a hopeful 6. And it's not for what it's earned for this week, but because this is half of an episode, I don't think it's fair to judge it. And I'm going to allow it to be great next week and hope for that.
May it be great. I love that. Braxton, you're up.
Solid episode. I think that I'd give it a 7. Like I said, I think that it made me feel really good stepping into the day. Had a big smile on my face seeing the Enterprise D, and all the crew gathered on the bridge. But yeah, I give it a 7.
Nice. Trev.
I agree 1,000% with everything Kevin said about Shaw. Though I've never said this, and I should. Todd was amazing and did amazing work with what he was given. And it's also really hard, I think, to plug into Trek and sound like you belong in that universe. And so he did. He sounded like a captain when he was giving orders, just not when he was naming his first officer. I too do not ship really anyone, but particularly Beverly and Picard, for lots of reasons. But one of them, and the most important, is that I do not believe that romantic relationships are the apex of relationships. There are. I happen to think that my romantic relationship is an apex for myself and my husband, but I have friendships that are deep and meaningful and powerful, and that I would do anything for, just like I have my partner. So for me, I think a beautiful friendship for them that transcends space and the space-time continuum would be an amazing ending for them. I give this episode, I would have given it a 10 if all I did was watch the last 10 minutes, but I didn't. I watched the whole thing, so I'm going to say 7.5 150-year-old phasers out of
10. Ken.
So I think this was a very good episode. I was sad to see. I mean, I don't think I have the same reaction to Shaw that you guys have. I think, I think that he was an interesting starship captain, along the lines of some of the other captains in Star Trek, including Commodore Decker and some of these other folks. I do agree that, he was not good with his first officer, but in some ways, and not that this is, an excuse, in some ways, McCoy was not good with Spock either. And so I think that you've got some history of Star Trek here with these kinds of characters. I do think that Shaw had some very heroic moments and some very heroic qualities to him. The actor is fantastic. I've got to know the actor a little bit, and he's just wonderful. And, I think that the character, I was sorry to see the character go. And as for the episode itself, again, I'm probably going to be a little bit different than some folks, and I'm not a big TNG. I like TNG. I'm a big TOS person, as everybody knows. Sometimes I think the nostalgia got a little bit too much in the way of the story. It's great to see the Enterprise D. And to your point, Sohail, I think the episode, the production made much a bigger deal of the D than the characters did of the D. But now they've got the Enterprise D going off to tackle these 267 starships. So it's going to be interesting to see what the heck happens there. I give, and then the character moments were great. Some of the pacing was bad. Some of the ways the stories broke is bad. But not bad, but not as good as I would like. So I'm going to give this 7 finally open red doors out of 10. And y'all got your D's. I see y'all got your D's out. So
Everybody
I'm
got
going
their
to.
D's. Nah, you beat me too.
That is
Damn
not.
it.
That is not
Good
how I
job,
saw
Ken.
this call
Phrasing.
ending.
Oh,
That is
good job, Ken.
Phrasing.
Oh, you beat me
That
to
is-
it. That's beautiful.
not how I
Yes.
saw this ending, but whatever.
Oh man, I don't have a D.
It's not the kind of show.
Yeah.
Yes, you
Oof.
do.
No, I don't have an Enterprise D. I'm waiting to order one from Master Replicas.
Oh, an Enterprise D.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. What do you think I meant? Anyway, who's next? Who's next, Sohail?
I believe he just said me, but he's muted, and he's been assimilated as well. I see your lighting went green.
Oh, I was saying yes. I was
The
saying
top
Stan, you're
row,
up.
top row getting assimilated with the green lighting. Love it. I really enjoyed this episode, even with my nitpicks, even with my I wish this instead of that. But I thought a lot of really lovely earned moments. Nothing felt like even when things were out of place or the pace was weird, nothing felt unearned, like the nostalgia, for example. Todd Stashwick is incredible. I want him in the franchise. I don't want Shaw in the franchise. I thought Captain Shaw served his purpose. There were redeeming qualities. There were funny moments. He had his full hero's journey. If he's not dead and moves into Star Trek Legacy, I feel like that's taking away from Seven's ability to lead and room in that show that I think Jerry Ryan has earned, particularly as she is completely, more than anyone else in Star Trek Picard, she has completely revamped her character, for better or worse. As an actress, she's doing an incredible job. On the production side, I feel like some of the best Seven qualities were totally forgotten. Her brilliance, for example, she was a brilliant scientist that no one seems to remember. And in a Star Trek Legacy show, I think we would have a really cool opportunity to get somewhat similar to what we got with Captain Janeway, being a scientist first and then a captain. Here we could get the opposite, a Captain Seven who's become this badass mercenary, reconnecting with her scientific roots.
I love that.
I think would be really cool.
I love that.
So
yes.
I did love the episode, even as I rip it apart. It's how I show my Star Trek love. I nitpick the fuck out of it, like all of us nerds. And I would give it a 2 out of an as yet to be seen third Todd Stashwick Star Trek character, because Shaw wasn't his first, and I hope it's not his last.
Very nice. Robbie.
Even though I was really hoping that somehow this season would be linked to the Power Wraiths, and just because I love DS9, even though it's a TNG show, I'm still gonna give this 9 parietal lobes out of 10.
Oh, that's so gross.
Just
I love it though.
the last 10 minutes just were perfect. The whole episode, I feel like even if you're not with the Borg plot, even if you're not a fan of it, it was executed well. The episode flowed well. It was nice to see our crew kind of all together as a family on the Enterprise D. Riker saying, we're the crew of Enterprise, but also we're your family. We're gonna join you. We're gonna help you get your whole family back. It's kind of beautiful in that way that it's been having these huge moments in the season, but also it's really been tied back to these smaller moments. I mean, we wouldn't give a damn about Jack if we hadn't had these scenes in the bar with him, and I feel like that's what I've really gravitated towards.
Nice. Those parietal lobe rating, it still has me feeling gross, but I love it. It was very cool. I will end by just saying that to me, this episode is unrateable. I will. I just loved it. It's these last 2 episodes have just been phenomenal. Star Trek Next Generation is super personal to me. For many reasons. It was important in my adolescence because I started watching it when I was like 11, and pretty much ended right as I was going to graduate high school. And then I used TNG and its lessons to be successful in the workplace. Like, I think it's a great show to teach people how to like overcome certain challenges that you might. Who called it a workplace drama last time? Was it I forget.
I think
it was
I accused someone else of thinking of it as a workplace drama. Yes.
Workplace drama. I totally.
I was
think
being
of it
a little
way.
snarky at the time.
It was warranted. It was about my friend Matthew, and it was warranted. Being snarky against him is always warranted.
I can't wait.
love
I
him
hope
to
he
death.
comes on.
It's how
Always.
I hug. It's how I hug.
Funny. I love it. But anyways, to me, the whole episode was great, but the scene that was really special to me was getting back the crew back on the Enterprise D. As I said, I do think that the production made a big deal out of it, and they made the deal that I wanted. Like, it was really perfect. Having Majel Barrett's voice be the voice of the computer was a nice touch, because she is such a big part of Star Trek of that era, all the way through Enterprise, right? Or Voyager? Yeah, all the way through Enterprise. Didn't she do computer stuff? Maybe through Voyager. I can't remember.
Not in Enterprise.
Not in Enterprise. Okay. Yeah, the computer didn't have a voice in Enterprise. That's right. You're right. But yeah, it was very special to have that. Like, I love the way that the panels light up. I keep talking about that. I can't wait to somehow make that happen in my bedroom, like where I walk in and just say, computer lights, and then everything just like turns on, and that sound of the panels.
You can't do that now.
No, I haven't set it up yet. I'm working. That's my life's ambition now. It's my whole goal. So yeah, that was a very special moment for me. Regarding Captain Shaw, I don't think he's dead. I just have a weird it's like what you guys said. The death just seemed a little like not enough, like stuff that I would have expected Shaw to. I don't know. I just didn't think. I don't think he's dead. I think he's dying. He may die, but I don't think he's dead. I think he's gonna be. There's gonna be a twist, but we'll see.
You know what I thought?
Anyways,
so just 1 second. This episode's last 10 minutes is this generation's equivalent of Star Trek The Motion Pictures version of Kirk and Scotty flying over to the Enterprise revamp. That's the equivalent. Anyway, I just thought of that.
And it's something funny. TNG never gave the ships like a moment like this, really, if you think about it. Like, the Enterprise E kind of had a moment like that, but like, yeah, this is the first time we get like really that moment in TNG. Go ahead, Stan.
I just wanted to add, I love that we found out that Worf is responsible for the Enterprise E being
Yes,
destroyed.
the Enterprise E being destroyed or lost.
Not
or
his
whatever
fault.
it is. Yes.
Because if that terrible father and unironic problem said it was not my fault, that means it was his fault. Everything about War from TNG and Deep Space Nine leads me to believe that the opposite of what he says is probably accurate. Not that he lies, he's not dishonorable, but if he says that something wasn't his fault, it probably was.
The show definitely has issues. There's a lot of things that you could tell because of budgetary constraints. They're clearly pouring the budget into these last 2 episodes. I think more so in next week's episode, we'll probably see that budget. But I will say that, like, I, as a fan, personally, like, don't mind filling in, and it hasn't crossed that line of like, oh, fill in too much. Like, one scene I would have loved is to see people reacting to Frontier Day, like excited about the Enterprise F, excited, like just reactions from people watching monitors on Earth, seeing the assimilation, but then also the assimilation, the horror, like families holding each other. So, I love that you're doing that. So yeah, there's so many opportunities, but considering that it's a TV show, considering they had a budget, considering all that, like, I'm willing to give up those moments because we are getting so many other special moments, and I'm willing to, like, in my mind, figure out how someone got from one room to another in like 2 seconds, and all that stuff. Because I know those inconsistencies are there, and they are worth noting and pointing out. But just to me, they don't matter as much as the overall story.
It's very Trek. It adds to the Trekness of it for me at this point.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's my final thoughts, guys. It's been we're 8 minutes into Crusher Convo, so I got a dip. We all got a dip, but it's been lovely having you guys on here. I see that Kevin's also been assimilated, so that's pretty cool. Live long and prosper, and we will see you next time.
Y'all.
Thank you, audience. See you guys on Crusher.